A wedding veil, a midnight ferry ride, a car left untouched on the dock. Emily and Daniel Stokes vanished from a crowded ferry without a sound. For 25 years, no one knew what happened, until divers found a sunken container miles off course. What was inside changed everything. Stay with us, because the lake didn't just hide their bodies, it buried a system. They were young. They were in love. They were supposed to begin their new life together on a cool September night in 1999. Emily and Daniel Stokes had just gotten married in a small candlelit chapel in northern Wisconsin. Their plan was simple. A short honeymoon that began with a midnight ferry ride across Lake Michigan. Emily wore her veil long after the ceremony, letting it flutter in the cold night wind. Daniel had booked a lakeside cabin where they'd wake up to sunrise over the water. They boarded the SS Grayson, a passenger ferry that carried travelers across the lake between Ludington and Manitowoc. Dozens of other people were on board that night. Families, truckers, college students returning to campus. But when the ferry docked at sunrise, the newlyweds were gone. Their car was still in the lot, unlocked. Inside, there were 2 unopened bags of clothing, a bouquet of white roses, and Emily's wedding shoes, carefully placed in the passenger footwell. It was as if they had never intended to leave. Crew members were questioned immediately. Most said they remembered the young couple, the groom in a navy blue blazer, the bride in a white shawl, but no one saw them disembark. No one saw them return to their car, and no one recalled them during the latter half of the journey. Search efforts began within hours. Coast Guard helicopters scanned the waters. Dive teams scoured the shorelines. Police interviewed every passenger. Still, not a single lead. A storm had passed through earlier that night, and some speculated the couple may have fallen overboard. But no splashes had been heard, no screams, and no one could explain how 2 people could vanish from a crowded ferry with no disturbance, no belongings left behind on deck, and no final goodbyes. Emily and Daniel Stokes became a mystery, one that haunted the lake for decades. Some said the couple ran away, that the pressure of a new life became too much. Others believed something darker had happened, a spontaneous murder-suicide, a human trafficking ring, a haunting tied to the lake itself. But one theory stood out, whispered by old sailors and passed between fishermen at lakeside bars, that there are places in Lake Michigan that don't obey time the way we do, that there are currents that pull more than just the body, they pull the memory. The legend of the Black Water, a place where ships vanish, instruments go dead, and people are seen only once. Local media dubbed it the Midnight Crossing, and the SS Grayson became infamous for what it didn't bring back. In the summer of 2024, 25 years after the disappearance, a team of sonar divers working on a separate cold case stumbled on something unexpected. Deep below the surface, 6 miles east of the ferry's original route, was a debris field. A pile of rusted metal, clothing fibers, and something else. A sunken shipping container not listed on any manifest. Inside the container was a makeshift room, rusted steel walls, a metal bench bolted to the floor, chains, and 2 plastic ID tags, one with Daniel S., the other Emily S. Both names had faded, but they were still legible. And then came the most chilling discovery, a wedding veil, tangled in the hinges. The case exploded back into headline. Was this a kidnapping? Had the couple been taken from the ferry in plain sight? But how? Investigators reviewed archived footage from the ferry terminal, and frame by frame, something terrifying began to take shape. At 12:41 a.m., a white maintenance van was seen pulling onto the lower deck. It was not on the official vehicle log. Its plates had been removed, and it left no digital footprint. A witness remembered the van vaguely, said it smelled of bleach, said the driver wore a jumpsuit and never made eye contact. Police now believe Emily and Daniel were lured or taken into that van, possibly with a sedative, hidden in plain sight. Locked inside the container, then thrown overboard during the darkest part of the crossing. It was a professional job, and it wasn't the first. That same dive team found trace evidence in the container, linking it to 2 other disappearances, both young couples who vanished while traveling by water between 1995 and 2003. Always on the lake, always during night crossings, always leaving a vehicle behind, untouched. The theory? A serial abductor, or a network trafficking young couples under the guise of routine ferry travel. But why? And how had they avoided detection for decades? Authorities began interviewing former crew members from the SS Grayson. One name came up more than once: Eli Walker. A shift mechanic, unassuming, quiet, but always on duty during overnight runs. Walker disappeared in 2004, weeks after the last suspected incident. His apartment was found abandoned, his boat missing, and in his storage unit, ferry maps, ritual patterns, newspaper clippings of every couple that had vanished. He was never found. Evidence now suggests they were victims of something methodical, a calculated abduction, possibly part of a larger operation that's still hidden. Their case remains technically unsolved, but the veil, the ID tags, the forgotten van, all point to a truth more horrifying than anyone imagined. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a love story gone wrong. It was a hunt. And Lake Michigan, beautiful and vast, was the perfect hunting ground. Crowds don't always mean safety. Surveillance doesn't always mean protection. And sometimes, the water keeps more than secrets. It keeps souls. If you were moved by the story of Emily and Daniel, subscribe for more cinematic mysteries, real-life disappearances, and stories that still echo through time. Because the lake doesn't always give back what it takes.